It's a great honor to have Maestro Jun Märkl and Wu Yaoyu for me to interview today, especially in this COVID-19 era that we don't see other guests from international country communities in Taiwan. So I'm happy to have you both here in person, and I would like to ask some questions about how you became the conductor.
Yeah, so welcome in our National Concert Hall.
Yeah, my honor. Then my questions are, I think most of the musicians, they start as a soloist. They play piano, or they are violinist, or they are a singer. But and after that they became a conductor. So what is the case of your life from instrumentalist becoming a conductor?
I think your remark is very interesting because you say first they became a musician and then they became a conductor. In the ideal case, a conductor is a good musician.
Yeah.
So to become a good musician, I think you have to learn an instrument.
Yes.
You have to make musical experience with an instrument, and then later you can transfer these experiences into the work of a conductor, working with the new instrument, which is in fact an orchestra. I think it's very difficult, maybe impossible, just right away to start conducting.
Mm-hmm.
So I did also this way, first trying to become a good musician, and since my parents were also professional musicians, my mother pianist, my father violin player, so I started to play these instruments like child plays, yes. So
Yes.
I didn't play so much with things, but with instruments, and grew up, learned these instruments, made my musical experience, and conducting came much later, the idea. Maybe you can tell what your background was.
Well, I think the situation in Taiwan is maybe maestro is so hard to imagine that the situation in Taiwan is so weird because we can't learn conducting in high school, even in university. The first degree we have in major conducting is master degree. Yes, so yes, of course, we all of us have to learn some instrument before, but in my case, it's even weirder because I learned this photography or recording. My subject is information communication in university, and I turned into the conducting in master degree. So yeah, just to share my situation is weird, but I think for maestro it's typical which musician and become conductor. Yeah, it's typical.
I think it's very important to know that when we talk about conducting, this is a very wide field of many different things you have to know, and so I think it's a very wonderful idea to have also a major knowledge and studies in something where you don't think right away this is the center of music or conducting, but you have some experience from other sides, combine those with your musical studies, and you have a wider horizon. As an instrumentalist, and that was my problem, working kind of in the direction in the career of a concert pianist, I was practicing quite a lot on the piano, 12 hours and more, and I just felt I'm always by myself, focusing on my work only, don't see this, don't see this. So the experience you make as a musician and as a human being and knowing about the world and culture, politics and all these things, it was very limited. And then I thought, yes, I need to widen my experience and want to know more. And then it's great to have maybe as many as possible other ideas about life and music and why we do it, what is our function in society, all these questions around, and maybe later that leads to some other aspects of or profession in our business. You can be conductor, or you can be promoter for music, or you can be professor in teaching, or you can be an agent, or a CEO of a company who makes music, like the concert hall here. So we all contribute to our music business, to our music life, but we need a very wide experience.
So regarding this very wide experience, how can an instrumentalist who has focused on his own music, or maybe he listened to a lot of music, but how can he develop or acquire that ability to be comprehensive enough, to be wide enough, that so that he can become a conductor? What's the transition look like?
Maybe it's a good idea to talk about some points what we think is important for a conductor, and then we can see how to get there. Yes, we talked a little bit. Yeah, we talked a little bit about the musical experience. So, I mean, also for my ambition, I think as a conductor, I have to tell and sometimes criticize really fantastic musicians and say, don't do it like this, I think you should do it like this. So how can I do this? Only when I kind of have also the expertise, at least on my instrument, and I reach a really high level, then I can say, okay, on this instrument I can tell this person something. When I'm really a lousy pianist and he is a fantastic violinist, why do I have the right to tell him how to play? So this is number one. And the second one is you have to be able to express what you think for many people. You have to be a very good communicator. And this is a skill you can learn in sometimes, yes, when you kind of go into management. There are really things which you can learn how to communicate. But also you need from, let's say, from your personality, you bring some talent for communication. You need to have a joy to talk to people, and when I'm pianist, I can just close everything and I'm here and just play my thing. And even there are some very wonderful and famous pianists who just sit on the podium and they just do like this in their world. And for us as an audience, it's fantastic to see this. This doesn't work for an orchestra. We have to be able to share and to open, and this is something very difficult also from the personality side, but I think a very necessary point. And then I think also we have to develop, I go a little bit to the human side of the whole thing, we have to be able to develop quality personal relationships. So when you can see this in the way how I criticize somebody. There are different ways of doing it. I can say from the fact, I don't like this, but I like this. And then I can do this in a way that somebody is really disappointed, breaks. Or I can say, what you play is really terrible. So I can make him aggressive, or I can find a way addressing my critics that he can take it and maybe even feels good encouragement. I help him. So there are different skills we have to develop, how to address something we want to change or to build in a positive way. That's, I think, and that's also skill, but also, I mean, to address musicians in a positive way, you have to love them. It's very simple. And then to share your love for music with love for musicians, that's also one point. If you as an instrumentalist, like a fantastic violin player, comes and decides, yes, I want to do this also as conducting from my violin, or to put the violin away and conduct, then you need kind of these qualities. Some can, some cannot. Huh? What's about you? What do you feel about this?
I think most of conductors will agree that we didn't play better than the player in orchestra. So I think the key point, the difference point between the instrumentalist and the conductor is that conductor have no instrument, so we have to express the music maybe even better by our face, by our body. That, for example, maestro can express piano's music very well in piano, but as a conductor, we don't have such a piano thing. We have to express music to the professional musician.
Yes.
So this is quite a difficult skill and a unique skill, and we have to learn about. And I think this is the key point where the two is difference.
Now since you are already conductors, I would like to ask, maybe you belong to different generations, and let me ask Maestro Märkl, what's your opinion or impression of the difference between conductor in the past, let's say the post-war decades, and the conductor in our days?
I mean, this is a very much, conducting is always a dialogue between musicians and a kind of a leading person.
Yes.
And I also feel the way how this relationship works is very well connected to the society in which we are living.
Yes.
So when I go around different countries, I see that relationships within a company, and especially in a company where relationships are so visible, like an orchestra, in different countries work different. So going back to Europe, let's say 50 years ago, 100 years ago, the education of musicians was not so good. Musicians would practice maybe instruments, and skills was good or not so good or whatever, but the amount of knowledge they had about music, about style, about everything was limited. And then you had these conductors who were maybe very good musically, but were a good leading person and so on, had a lot of knowledge. So the difference, the gap was very big. So that led to a very autocratic, hierarchic relationship. And when we look back, for example, one of the famous one is Toscanini.
Yes.
So he could be so furious, and you just kind of
video.
So orchestra musicians were always like this, but it was clear he was the grand maestro, and there was no discussion about it. Nowadays, the situation has changed a lot. Musicians know so much more. They know the works well. Before they just played almost everything for the first time. Now they have really good knowledge. They know more only than just music. Kind of the level of education is much higher. Conductors, we hope they also improved, but the gap is much smaller. So from my side, maybe my generation is the one where we have the biggest change. So from this hierarchic axis, it just became more like this. So I would consider myself as, yes, somebody who is a leading person in organizing the work, because when it's well organized, we save time and we are very efficient. But I'm kind of one of team members. So the idea of team is for me very important. Before it was no team, there was just one leader and then the soldiers down there. Yes, and now we kind of more like this, and so the musicians, I expect musicians to be active, and if they can, to contribute. So I listen very carefully. What are the musicians offering? When he plays a wonderful solo, and he plays a little bit different than I thought, but I think, this is great, yes. Then I say, yes, I please more of this, yes. So I support him, and I learn from him, yes. And that makes kind of a relationship which is two ways. Before it was one way, master teaching students. Now we back and forth. And our art is that we can kind of keep a leading position, yes, to organize everything well and be still open in accepting everything from our co-workers, our team members. And that's something very fine. When you kind of accept a lot, you can lose also the leadership, and then it's chaos. When I'm too keeping the leadership only, then very often I don't see even what the team members can contribute. So this is very much thing of experience, but also willingness, and in this sense I think it has changed a lot. And maybe you can tell us a little bit how you feel today as young generation.
I am the one who is conductor in nowadays. For me, the most important point is how to be humble and respect the orchestra. I think this is so different between conductor in the Cold War decade and conductor in nowadays. I have seen the video. The title is "The Art of Conducting," and the video explains how. Like Stokowski, Toscanini, how strict and work so hard with orchestra. But nowadays we can do that because I won't say we respect the orchestra more. I will say the orchestra can teach us more than I teach orchestra. I rarely can teach orchestra anything, but every time I conducting orchestra, I learn so much from them. And nowadays the conductor must be so humble and must respect the orchestra so much. And luckily we have the generation like Maestro is the transition from the golden time and to nowadays. So how to be respectful, how to respect the orchestra, we have a very, very good teacher.
I think looking from the orchestra musician side, musicians have a very fine sense for conductors. And my father, who was also a concertmaster, who said, after 1 minute we know how the rest of the week will go. So they feel, first of all, how competent a conductor is, how much he knows, how confident they can be that he can lead us well, and how honest as a musician you are. And when these kind of points are there, then the musicians say, okay, we can trust him. We can trust him as a leader, and we can trust him as a person. Then they will follow you, regardless whether you're young or old or middle-aged. When something is lacking, when they don't see the leadership here technically, they don't know where to play, then they become insecure, they don't follow anymore. Or when they see this person is very arrogant and very bad person. So then, but you say to be humble. I think the most important for us is to be really honest in working with the music and working for the music, not for ourselves. not for our own career, but for the music. And this is something musicians see and respect. They have a great respect for this kind of work and this kind of persons, and then they will follow.
Maestro, do you think the rehearsal is different before and nowadays? Maybe nowadays we have a limited time for every concert, but before I think one concert will have more rehearsal time.
Yeah, I studied with this old generation, very famous at the time, conductor Sergiu Celibidache, and he had like 21 rehearsals, 3-hour rehearsals for one Bruckner symphony. So they rehearsed more than 2 weeks for this, and every note, every bar they had to kind of discuss them back and forth, and so that was wonderful times. But today, since the knowledge of the musicians is already there, they know so much more, it goes much faster. And also time is money, and orchestra has to be paid, so we cannot waste resources in time and working hours of the orchestra. We have to be very efficient. And so the whole process goes much faster. We have to be so well prepared. Musicians have to be well prepared to start on as high as possible level. And if I have a rehearsal and somebody comes and is not prepared, doesn't know his part, then we really get angry. But if I see yes, he's well prepared, then it works.
Therefore, that's a difficult part for me, the rehearsal. Because we have to manage the time very efficiently and very well rehearsal. We can spend a lot of time to just rehearse one section, and we can't interrupt too much, or the musician will be angry. So it's so hard for a beginner, for an amateur conductor to manage the time, how to rehearse. So even now I feel difficulty. So I always ask for the guidance, even for the next concert we have.
But that's maybe something, first of all, it's something which you gain through experience, but not only, it's a kind of preparation, time management. And time management you can learn, of course, in music, but also in other parts. So what I usually would recommend to anybody young who doesn't yet know how to do it, first of all, make a plan. When you have, usually we have 2, 3, 4 pieces works in a program, so just think, how long would I need for this piece, how long for this. So I have maybe 2.5 hours. From this I'd have to take away the break, the coffee break, 20 minutes for example. So then I have 2 hours 10 minutes left as real rehearsal time. So I take 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes for this. So then you have a frame. And the second idea I would give, when you rehearse with an orchestra, don't do stop and go. The first mistake or first thing you don't like, don't stop. That's like rush hour. We always stay there and wait for the next traffic light. Orchestra doesn't work like this. They need to play. So then have a good computer in your head and collect this all happened. So I will find the next stop and then correct. And correct from, let's say, the top priority, the biggest problem, technical problem also, correct first, and then go to the smaller problems, which kind of helps you that in the end you always, regardless how far you come, you can play it in the concert. So that helps making a good battle plan for your time you have with the orchestra, and can give the orchestra, they need to trust you that you can work within the given time frame, that they know, he knows exactly what to do, and we get a result. And so that's a lot of preparation time. I do prepare my rehearsal time really in detail.
Yes.
And so it's not only learning the music,
Yeah.
but thinking about the time you have.
Yeah. Okay, when it comes to the topic, working for music, you have talked a lot about that. Then I wonder how to balance a dynamic between representing a score and creating from a score, and how do conductors to develop his own personal style from those balance or dynamic?
I think this is a very interesting question, and there also starts my critique of a lot of the business, music business today, because a great part of people, since we know so much music, we have had so many great interpreters before us, many people now go and want to hear the Beethoven Symphony in a way they never heard before. So it's only about the sensation of something new, not about true, about real. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, and on the other hand, from the side of the artists, they do some of them they do the same. They don't really think about the piece, but they think, how can I make a sensational interpretation so everybody would say, oh, never heard this. Yeah. So I think this is the wrong approach.
Yeah.
When you say we have to be humble, we have to be honest to the score, to the music. So we take the Beethoven Symphony and we study, and it's not my interpretation which comes first. That comes maybe on the very end of the whole process. We try to understand Beethoven, we try to understand his language, we try to understand why he wrote this and how we can recreate it.
Yeah.
And then many things of so-called interpretation come very natural, because when you do something and I do the same thing, it's just because we are different person, it will be a little bit different. Yes. Maybe that's already enough. And I don't have to look and say, okay, I make this really different way because I want to be different from you. No, maybe we come up with the same solution. You say we both read this transition in the symphony the same, but still it's a little bit maybe different. And so that's, I think, the honesty to the score, to the base, the foundation of our work.
Yes.
We call it reading the score. Reading the score is mean we know what Beethoven want to say, the composer's intention in dynamic. But create a dynamic, it means, it's based on the taste of our music. We want the music like what. Every person is different. So maybe, like Maestro says, the solution is the same, but eventually the music will be different because of the taste is different. But we all of us based on the intention of composers.
Also, when you look, when I look at my performances, let's say I take Beethoven 6 just for an example, and I have done it quite often with different orchestras in different halls, and it's different. It's not always the same. So I react to what kind of sound does the orchestra have, because we are aware our orchestra today is different from Beethoven's orchestra. Our feeling of timing is different. Our concert halls are different. Our whole ability to listen to is different. So we have to translate it also in today's time, and we do it different. So from different style of orchestra, I even have slight differences in tempo. From concert hall, whether it's big, has a lot of reverberation, or small, my tempo is different. even time of day. When I have an afternoon concert or
Yeah.
an evening concert, might be a little bit different, and I think that's good because it's a that's the wonderful thing about art and music. It's a living organism,
Right.
which has also its own inner life, and that's what we have to find and to get. What is kind of the essential message, which stays with slight difference, but the message comes always across, and that's a lot of study to find.
Right. I think for most the concert goers, they enjoy watching a conductor standing on a podium and conducting, but they always watch what they can see actually is your back and some gestures from behind. So while you are conducting, facing the orchestra members, can you feel the reaction from the audience, and would you react to that reaction from the audience?
This is a very good question, and there's a couple of aspects. In old times, really old, middle 1850 and earlier, conductor was actually facing the audience, and on his back there was kind of the orchestra, so the orchestra would see only his back, and so the relationship, the connection between orchestra and leader was not so big. So what I would miss is the idea of team. Good. So then it changed, yes, because music became more complicated, and so then we see the back of the conductor. But I think in a way it's good, and the public should not look so much at the conductor, because what's really interesting is the relationship between the musicians and of course also conductor, and it goes back and forth, and goes not always. Olden times everything went from conductor to musician, conductor to musician, conductor. Yes. Nowadays we have a lot of kind of like a web, spider web, musician to musician, musician, other musician, then conductor, and so on. Or take the soloist when you have the solo concerto. Also, the soloist would not only play with the conductor, hopefully, the conductor would also play with him, soloist with some wind players or so. There's a lot of work going this way, not only this way. And that's, I think, the wonderful thing for the audience to enjoy the way of teamwork and the rich way of different levels of connections. And I myself, for myself, it's the happiest moment is when I'm able to connect the orchestra that well that I actually could stop conducting and just watching them and see that it really works well. So the point to make yourself, to enable everybody so that you're not needed anymore. So it's not to watch my back and make a nice gesture so that people admire how elegant I would do something. No, it's about creating the best team, the best conditions for teamwork, for having everybody inspired about what the music would say, the message here.
So, Yao Yu, then what is your take on this?
When I'm conducting, I can hardly feel the audience reaction actually, because I'm deep into the music which orchestra is playing. But I think the audience care more about the communication between conductor and the orchestra. I think the communication will touch the audience better than my back. I have been in some concert hall which audience is sitting behind the orchestra. That time I can feel the audience by their face. But when I'm conducting, no, I have to say I can't feel so much about audience reaction.
I worked a lot, also many years in the opera houses, and there is we kind of especially in the opera performances, I don't know why this is so strong there. We have a feeling, how is the performance today going to be, even before the performance. So when I go to the podium, in the orchestra pit for example, or just before we open the curtain, we have a feeling about the audience.
Yes.
We don't see it yet, but somehow we feel today it's somehow the audience is very awake and very interested, and then we hear the first applause. Oh yes, today is a great day.
Yeah.
And so that will kind of strengthen all our senses, and we're just better then, yeah. And sometimes it's today is the sleepy day. Yes, and so makes it more difficult for us. So in a way, I feel very much what the let's say tension of the audience is. The audience has a great influence in the performance, more than they realize, and also in the quality, I must say. And then you also have this phenomena that always on the most soft place, then either telephone is going off or somebody is it's this kind of thing. Yes, it always happens, and when you hear the old recordings on the it's always on the softest place. Yes, so what does that mean? What does that tell us? It's kind of some people are with us, some people are not. Just one phenomenon, maybe many people maybe are not so aware. When you're on stage, usually you don't cough and you don't sneeze, because somehow the tension in your body is so you don't do it. The body wouldn't do it. When somebody does that, then he is not 100% with us. And in the audience, you cannot be always like 90 minutes, such a high tension. Yes, but there you also feel, let's say, the problematic side of the audience. And on the other hand, sometimes we go in a concert hall and then we play something, and you feel kind of this. You can hear the smallest needle drop because the concentration is so high. So, audience is also an organism which is part of the performance, which has a great influence on us as conductors, on the orchestra.
Especially in Italian opera house, I think. The audience there will express themselves very, very well, even during the concert.
What means well, this is also a thing, yeah? Example, Parsifal, this famous opera, and first act ends very long, super soft. Yes. When you play Parsifal in the in Italy, as soon the curtain makes this, yes, and the whole ending is completely messed up. In Germany, it's kind of the tradition. Wagner even started Parsifal. You end super soft, and it's finished, and you don't know if people are all sitting there. No applause allowed. And then somebody will say, finally you have yes. So it's a kind of tradition not to applaud. So is that better, or is this Italian way better, just to kind of show your emotions? I don't know. It's a kind of different from culture, and so so I wouldn't say better or not, but the main thing is that what we do with the music will reach the mind and hearts. And the way they express that they touched is a social thing. It's from different people, different traditions. Yes.
I think Taiwan is more like German way.
Yeah, Taiwan is very concentrated, very focused, they show a very high respect for the music and the life. Do we wait? How? So that's I appreciate very much.
From time to time, I heard the people, especially the conductors and the famous musicians, they talk about how they made their career. They are making career. So what does this making career actually mean for you, and how did you make your career?
I think when you're young, then career is like a ladder with steps. You go, you are up, yes. So you think as a young musician, okay, first step, yes, I have to get a job like first Kapellmeister, and then I have to be music director here, and then I have to go to Berlin Philharmonic, and then to Metropolitan Orchestra, and so yes, these are my steps of my career. And so I found out that doesn't mean anything. That's not real career, because this is something which comes from outside. So now I would consider career, making a career is much more about finding who you are, what is your potential, how can you best work with people so that the result is positive. And when you find this way, you find yourself, you find the best working conditions and also the best people. I mean, I'm not working with every orchestra, because some relationships, independently from the quality, some relationships with some orchestras work really well and others don't work so well because they expect something different, or I'm not the right person for them. When you find the right people, and when you as a person, as an artist, makes a real good development, that I would now consider as making career. And I always say happy musicians are the best musicians, and that's also true for conductors, yes, and for working relationships. So rather going for positions which I have to reach, and like in politics, becoming president of, then work on yourself.
Also, would you agree that I had this word? Would you agree that career is some kind of commercial activity in conducting? Nowadays,
yes and no. When you go by position, when you go by commercial things, then for people who don't understand so much, it's easier to judge. Then they can say, okay, he has the position as music director of this, or he has won this competition, so he must be good. He is music director of small orchestras, so maybe not so good, not so interesting. So this ranking is something from outside, and what we don't see sometimes is that somebody is doing fantastic work in this place and it's just right, and somebody who is much higher on the ranking ladder could not do this. So think very much of what you can contribute as you as a person, and find your place where you're best. There is a theory of a very good, I think, philosopher, American philosopher, who said we make kind of career and we end our career on the step where we are not good enough anymore. Yes, because you go up, yes, you're good, you make next step, yes, you're good, next step, it stops because you're not good anymore. Yes, and this is some sad news. Yes, so then stay there where you're really good, where you can contribute good things. And this is for us to find where we are best, where can we contribute the most, and don't try always to go to Chicago Symphony.
Since I'm still young, I can't explain what is the definition of making career, but I can say that I just try to continue conducting. This is my career, just want to continue conducting. But it's more difficult than I think, I have to say.
So then we have come to a very important topic for the young people who wish to become a conductor. So in pursuing such a professional career, what's, in your opinion, what has changed, or what has not changed in pursuing such a professional career?
The problem nowadays, we talked about it in relationship to the rehearsal time, is that time is much shorter. So also in becoming a conductor, everything has to go so fast.
Yeah.
The market wants to have young geniuses, yes, and that's true for soloists. Go and look around those so-called number one soloists. Quite a lot of them are as young as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, good looking and young as possible. And so I think it's like good bottle of wine. To get real quality, you need time for that. And very often the market is not giving us the time.
Yeah.
And they come back to what does it mean to be a conductor? Conductor in, let's say, a responsible position where you take responsibility for an orchestra over longer time. You have yourself to develop so many skills, knowledge about different repertoire, about how to lead an orchestra in a very good way, to lift the spirits and so on. There is a lot of musical experience and human experience, leadership experience, and you have to develop also a network to create good possibilities for artists come here, or you bring the orchestra outside. That takes time, and we very often have now the situation, you have a super young conductor for an orchestra, and he is doing or she is doing everything for the first time. So this person learns from the orchestra only, but the orchestra doesn't get anything back. So this is really bad for the orchestras, yes, but managers are pushing for this. The market is pushing. The pressure of the market is so much higher than it had been before. So we have to be very careful about this. And one reason is young musicians, conductors are very often left alone in the market. And what we need to have is what we had in the German opera houses. People would have time to develop from one step to the next, and there were some colleagues and some music director and some coaches would help and support and say, don't do this, and so or this assistantship. You start as an assistant conductor and you have experienced chief conductor. This is more the American system, and you learn from them what to do, and as a clever young assistant conductor you learn also what not to do, what doesn't work. So then profit from this, get kind of all these experiences, the good things from the past, and you add new qualities, so you develop the whole thing, and it goes higher level. That's kind of the ideal. But the market sometimes wouldn't let us take the time. So I was in my career careful and said sometimes I didn't accept certain so-called chances. I said I'm not yet ready for this step. So then this opportunity didn't come back. Okay, but still I said I can't do it well there. So
what maestro say is the great dangerousness of the competition out there, because if a young person just won a competition and begin conducting, even his experience is zero. Maestro, I say my experience.
This is the question about competitions, yes, and I think this is a very wonderful thing to look at it. And he is so humble, telling us about his experience. Competition is neither good nor bad. It's what you make out of it. And in this case, we had you who showed he has an extraordinary potential. So he won this competition, and everybody was saying, wow, how can he do this? Yes. So, but as we said earlier, conducting the profession or the idea of a conductor, that needs so much time.
Yeah.
And there is so much potential, but then you need time and opportunities to develop. And so this is what we have to find.
Yeah.
Orchestras, organizations who would give him the chance, and people who would help, and then you have the possibility to grow.
Yeah.
When you look into like the musical world, our classical musical world, the speed with how you have to develop is very different. For example, if you take a young female singer, like soubretta, for example, so they go very fast with a light voice, and when they kind of a good actor, and so they can make quite quick career, but then also there comes quite soon the point where it's over. You don't want, the market doesn't want to hire them as a young girl. Dancer is even more extreme, very short span of life. For us, it's a long one. We are maybe like even more like basses. In the singers, a bass needs a lot of time until you can sing the father roles, and so you can't do that with 22, even if you have a good voice. Yes, so it maybe good singer bass starts from 45 or end of 40s, then they start to become a good wine. Yes. And for conductors, sometimes end of 40s you're still very young. And so I would suggest, take your time. You have so much to learn, but you have also to find the point where you have to say, this is the right thing for me to do or not. Yes. You can see when you, as we said before, conducting is a very wide field. You learn so many things, and this is a chance to do many things afterwards. You can go in teaching, you can go in music business, you can go into any leadership position, even outside of music. You don't have to do conducting, but the education is a very good one. Yes. There is the moment you have to decide for yourself. This is what I do, and when I stay with the music and the conducting orchestras, it's a really tough life. You have to be prepared for this. It's really, when you're not 100% sure about this, don't do it. It's really too tough, too risky also. Yes, you sit on the street and nobody will ever hire you. Yes, I had this, seen this a lot. Like when you're young, on your career, like in an opera house, and you study because the music director is doing this Verdi opera, and you're studying it and coaching it, and so, and then of course you hope, I hope he is sick tonight, then I can jump in and then I have a big chance. Yes. So not today, but maybe next week. Yes, and you want to be ready, and then you get the chance. That's a great thing in German opera house. You get the chance to conduct, but it's one chance, and then you do fantastic performance, and everybody says great, and then you get the next chance. But if you do this one chance and it's not good, you don't get anything else. No chance again. Yes, so it's very tough. So I would suggest, when you're not 100% sure you really can sustain this over a long time, don't do it.
As far as I know, that becoming a conductor, they need to be able to master different languages. Would you agree with that? And why is that?
Language is a key to culture, and music is also language, I would say. So much music is built on language. So the most important languages in music are Italian and German, and then maybe French, and then English. But I think the more languages you know, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because it widens your horizon. Not only that, I'm able to communicate with orchestras in Japan or in Spain in native language, but also just to understand more about their culture, about the music which was written there. And for example, when I do a German repertoire piece in Japan, I do understand better how to explain this to them, because I know both mentalities. Yes. And so I think for when you work in opera, Italian is absolutely a must. And if you do know some German, it's very helpful. When you are in symphonic more, then you should know some German, and English is the language of the world now. It's very helpful, and then it depends where you live. But for more languages, the better, right? But also, for me, with this vast German background, and can read the German books, but so much great research is now done in English. Or I read a lot also letters. I have a great love for French music, and then Debussy, for example, Ravel, and reading the letters they write in the original language. This gives me a lot of feeling and knowledge about the music. So I think also something young people can consider. It's very good to have a wide repertoire, wide knowledge, but you need also to know a couple of things very well. So be somebody who has a wide knowledge and a specialist at the same time. Find the places where you say, there I feel most comfortable. And so I did, for example, French music or German, part of the German repertoire. They have really feel at home. Some contemporary composers, and then I know more about this, can read in original language, and that helps.
In Maestro, I think the important part of a language is related to music itself. Like Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff has written in the music. Will remind us to the Russian, and like Schubert. Alright, his symphony then will remind us how he speak in Deutsch, and then how he write in music is different, just difference between Tchaikovsky and Schubert. Also in Debussy, I think.
Yes.
Also related to the music itself.
And that's something we as conductors also have tell or let the orchestra feel how to play this, because depending from the language, the way we play and express is also different. It's not just one pitch G we play, or interval G, C, we play like this. No, it's from composer to composer, from style, from country, from language to language, we would play differently. And that's sometimes difficult to understand, but this is the joy. And which makes music, I mean, we have just 12 half steps and combinations of this, but still we can always, until now in our music history, we create new things, new fascinating sounds with the same 12 notes. So language is something which helps a lot.
And let's talk about the discography, the recordings you have created. What's your favorite recording or the series among your discography?
I have mainly recorded 3 things: German repertoire, French repertoire, and then contemporary. And but I try to think in bigger cycles. I did some single recordings, this one, this thing, but when I worked in France with the Orchestre National de Lyon, I created a cycle of recordings of Debussy.
Yeah.
And I recorded everything which you can play for orchestra. Not the operas, but everything with the orchestra. And so that was in the end the collection of 9 CDs. So a real big box. Huh? And this is kind of a thing when, as a musicologist or somebody from the audience or some musician, conductor, when you want to know something about Debussy, you have to look into that. There's no way around. So I'm pretty proud of having done this.
Yeah.
This was a work over 6 years, and that helped me so much. When you know a lot about one composer, then you know more also about one piece. Yes. So let's turn it around. When you study one piece, one work, learn as much you can about the other works of the composers. First of all, the works which were written before, after, not only the one for orchestra, but also chamber music, solo works, which were the pieces, the works who had a great influence on this composer. And so you kind of embed the one work you have into a larger environment and experience. And that's what I tried to do with the Debussy. And so that's, I'm happy that I had the chance to do that.
So do you have any recording plans with the Taiwan Philharmonic?
Yes, certainly, but recording is also difficult business, and much more difficult than before. And what I'm trying to look for is, when we do a recording, this is not for commercial thing. We don't make money with recordings. It's to show the world we can play this and we have something special to say. And the question I'm having is, what is the right repertoire to record for this orchestra? And I'm working on this to see what's the best message we can have by recording music to the Taiwanese people, but also to the international community. And so you can't just do Beethoven symphonies, because there are so many. Why would anybody listen to the Beethoven symphony cycle we do here? There's so many. So we need something special. And so we are developing good ideas.
Nice to hear that. I know there are, in the coming months, you will have a series of concerts. How about the Miaobei Music Festival? Yao Yu will be conducting there.
Tell us something about it.
Would like to tell about about the concert you are going to conduct in.
The program is Polonaise from Eugen Onegin and the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto and the Symphony Number 5. Basically it's the same program with the season opening concert. But with a different soloist, which is, I'm sorry, I don't know his English name. Wei Jingyi. Wei Jingyi. I remember. William. William Wei. It's whole the Tchaikovsky, and which is our main subject in this season is discover the Tchaikovsky, because maestro think that Tchaikovsky's music will help the orchestra to express their extremely emotion. So Tchaikovsky will be the very good program for season opening concert. I'm also looking forward for this concert.
How about Maestro?
We have this general idea for programming, and one of these ideas is to have kind of the spotlight on one composer. And as you said, it's this season it's Tchaikovsky, and Tchaikovsky is a composer who writes this beautiful music, these beautiful melodies, and you can sing along them, and once you hear them they stick in your head, and it's wonderful. But there's also certain repertoire we know well, and others we don't know. And so I would like to give the chance to say, okay, this is, you know, why won't you hear also this? We made you the offer. Listen to the first symphony, and for example,
Yeah.
and so we have crossover. We discover new sides from well-known composers, and then also we have other themes in our season. For example, the idea of love in music is very strong, and Tchaikovsky is also very strong in this. His music always is expressing something about love, about being desperate, not being able to love the way he wants to do, and disappointments and fighting and getting some success, and then it breaks all down. So it's a very passionate music, and some music which goes from heart to heart, and I think the audience will enjoy this very much. And I'm happy they will be in very good hands under his conducting.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward. Thank you for today's sharing about valuable and insightful experiences. I really look forward to your concert, to listen to how you put your idea into practice, into music.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shen.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure for us.
Thank you, Yao Yu and Maestro.
Thank you.